Cheers.
Cece Machieski with Simple Home Lending joining me. I should probably say my name. I never do. I'm Holly Amato, real estate specialist extraordinaire. And it's
With?
another
With who?
with the
With
XP
whom?
Realty. Thank you. With the XP
Mhm.
Realty. Want to make sure we get that in there. And this has been last week. We weren't live together because it was a very busy week of you, busiest week of your life, probably.
Oh, it
Moving.
was.
Moving is no joke. I give you cheers and kudos. It's like my dumpster fire cup. It's going to come in handy today. Dumpster
Okay.
fires. But it says
It
everything's fine inside. It's okay. It's all going
well,
to
the
be okay.
dumpster we had that was backed up into there's so many stories. The dumpster that we had in the driveway definitely was a dumpster fire issue.
Did you
So,
only have to fill it up one time though?
twice,
Okay. Cuz
but we
usually
shared
once is
it.
not enough. Yeah.
Well, we ended up sharing it with the neighbor. Unfortunately, their water heater went and ruined the whole basement. So
Okay, I hope they paid for half of that.
they did. They
Okay.
did. So when we were comparing prices, ours was a bit cheaper and they were going they couldn't go as fast. So having two really helped disperse their timeline. It
Okay.
really did help. So, it all worked out. They're happy. We're happy. So if anybody looked in our dumpster, it's like half of our life and then a whole bunch of kid stuff, like
Yeah.
unicorns and
It's a
pink and
lot.
blue, and that's not me. It's just it was quite funny. But yeah, it was very eye-opening. I don't think I ever want to do that again, like
No.
ever. Going from
It's
so
a lot.
to kind of give a context to everybody who's going to be watching, I had two cabins of items. I had a primary home from our last primary, and then this primary home of 10 years because our basement was so large. Our house was a 2,500 square foot walkout. So our basement could hold so much, it's the same footprint. So basically, my house was 5,000 square feet. So we had a lot of stuff,
You did have a lot of stuff.
lots of stuff.
And I can
And
understand that. I have a lot of stuff in my basement too. I mean, do you know that you like the anxiety I got just listening to what you were doing? I was trying to just be positive for you, but in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, it caused me on Sunday. Today's Tuesday, Sunday. I went through some cabinets and I just started throwing out stuff. We had like at least 2 million of those water bottles, just water bottles, hydro flask, anything you could think of, from their dance days, which we didn't need, Victoria's Secret. I threw out it was a huge garbage bag just of water bottles.
oh, wow.
Then I went in my
Yes.
bathroom, went through all my products, the stuff that you buy and you use twice, and you're like, I don't want to throw it away.
Mhm.
I like sent it upstairs to my daughter. I'm like, if you don't want it, throw it away. And I reorganized all of that. But
So
yeah,
my purge
I
kind of,
tried to
like,
purge.
influenced you.
It influenced me. So I always, and I'm an organizer like at heart. So I legitimately, like, I'm looking around my kitchen and I'm like, I need to go through these cabinets again. And I go through and pull out things that I'm not
Just
using. Like, you don't need 25,000 vases. You always get someone buys you flowers with a vase, you
yeah.
have the vase and you keep the vase
What
because what are you gonna do with the vase? Throw it out.
a base. So, like, a nice fluted one, a nice straight cylinder,
And then the
and
short one,
then
when you have the little, short
the
little,
little
you know what
one.
I mean?
But we had vases. I think we ended up having 20 vases, and I put them
Cabinet behind
in.
me, that's
Oh,
what that is. It's vases and crystal flutes and all that kind of stuff.
yes. I kept 2 crystal
It's
vases that
gross.
were super nice,
Yeah.
and then the rest were like I think I only kept 5 total. That was it. I'm like, "I'm no more. I'm gonna keep it to 5 and go from there."
Yeah,
So, I
moving
did
it's a lot of work.
yes, I did learn a lot, but, I did have a question. Now that
Sure.
I'm done, the house is sold, we've moved out, we've done the key exchange. I actually have some follow-up questions for you. And
Okay.
in lending, I felt like I should know everything, but I didn't. How did and I meant to ask you this a long time ago, how did the negotiations when we had individuals negotiating on our house, how do you handle multiple negotiations at the exact same time to get them to the number that we want? Because we had a couple lowball, we had some come in, and they were kind of like all over the place. Can you walk me through what
I sure
you
can.
kindly can do for these buyers that you have to
Yep.
look at their packet before you come to me and go, okay, and present it to me?
Well, I want to start with a funny story first about exactly to your point about some of the low balls that we had. So, dealing with agents, I will say the first thing about negotiations is you have to understand agents. And you have worked with enough agents, I think you already are going to get this. But not all agents are created equally or have the same experience or understand what it is to negotiate. And sometimes they give away too much. I'm always looking for the too much. I'm looking for the give me as much information as possible, get them talking. I'm a personality person anyways. I like to talk to people. I want to find out as much as I possibly can about their client, and I'm kind of wanting to find out what kind of agent I'm going to be dealing with because believe it or not, that does impact the entire transaction. If everything is created equally and there's one agent that's a total rock star and the other one that's a total dumpster fire, that's going to be that's going to be
Cheers.
something that, right, cheers to that, that is something
Uh,
to take into consideration. So one of the lowball offers that we got came from an agent. I don't even care if she watches it because honestly I would say this to her because I think she needs to hear it. Was super abrasive. Here's how to not do it. Let's start there. How to
okay.
not negotiate. She was super abrasive. Not only was she super abrasive, she was asking questions that she had no business asking, knowing that I couldn't even answer. Because the first rule to negotiating is my fiduciary is to my sellers when I'm talking with agents. Obviously, I can't give away information that could potentially hurt an offer or lessen what we could have gotten based on what I'm saying. She was doing everything she possibly could to try to um, find out what your bottom line was. She wanted to know what you would take. Well, I'm not going to offer, ask. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's been on the market X amount of days. Like, why has it been on the market so long? Why do you think it's been on the market so long? That was like the intimidation aspect.
What do
Like
you
she
mean we sold it in 9 days?
the intimidation aspect, like it did go within two
Okay.
seconds, right? So she was
Yeah.
trying to get me off my game, like to try to intimidate me. Little does she know, I don't intimidate easily. Unless you're a shark and I'm in the ocean, right? Then fully intimidated. But literally just trying to and I like to answer a question with a question to the point where the other person starts to feel silly for even asking said question. Like, well, what do you mean? It's what do you mean by that? Like I would just say, what do you mean by that? Well, it's been on the market. Why do you think it's been on the market? And then I said something to the effect of, do you list houses or are you just working? And also, she wanted the house for herself. Do you just work with buyers or do you also work with agents? Like, I'm basically saying, like, honey, do you even know what you're doing right now? Do you even do you even play in the same arena? Are we in the same circus together? Do you even know? Because that's just a silly question. So it was just everything about it was me throwing a question back to basically get it through that I wasn't intimidated by her. And also when she was telling me, X, Y, and Z, didn't think this, didn't think that. I'm like, did you even see the house yet? Did you even come and take a look? Have you even walked through it? Well, I don't even
Did
want to walk
she?
through it. No, I don't even walk through. I don't even want to walk through it if I can't get what I want, is essentially what she was saying. And I was like, so you want me to negotiate with
No.
you regarding a home that you haven't even
No.
seen, and you want me to tell you what my buyer is willing to take based on what you're willing to pay, and you haven't even come to see the house yet.
So she never even saw the value of my house, like the
No,
beautiful
I don't. I'm
backyard,
trying to remember. I don't think this one even
the
saw the house.
privacy.
I could be
All
wrong because
right.
there was so many conversations, but there was one of them that hadn't even been through yet. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So that conversation. So I basically just she's like, I said, well, here's the other thing. I did get a call that we're supposed to be getting an offer. So she's like, oh, well, why don't you just call me if you get the offer? I said, they're sending us an offer. She told me they're sending an offer. So if you want to send an offer, I recommend you get in there, see the
Send
house,
an
and send an
offer.
offer. Great. So that whole conversation was ridiculous. And then there were people who were just kind of nitpicky. So here's the other strategy is, well, the cabinets had some dings on them. I'm like, yeah, it's not new construction. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they did. Like, what is your point? Like we aren't listed, and we were listed well below some of the other comps that were like, fully finished basements, fully updated to the nines. Obviously, we totally did all of that. And like we took all of that wear and tear, normal wear and tear on a house. I mean, that's all houses. I don't want anyone walking through my house right now. That's the thing. Like there's normal wear and tear in a house. We took that into account. So a lot of the negotiations start happening before the offer even comes in, which is something that you wouldn't really know. I mean, I kind of
I
filled you in on
wouldn't
some
see
things.
it.
No,
Yeah, but I don't see it because until it's a full-blown offer, why present it to me?
right.
And that's where I feel like I kinda missed, like, a whole section of what you did because now I'm the client. You sold my house for me, for Ken and I, and, I didn't get to see it. So those are the don'ts. What are the do's?
So the dues are you want to like so from my perspective, you want to know what I did basically. So as offers come in, the first thing I'm doing is having that good conversation with the agent. I'm asking as many questions as I can about the buyer. Is this buyer contingent? Because believe it or not, yes, they're supposed to put it in the contract, but if they forgot, I need to know. Do they have to sell to buy? And if they do, are you already under contract? So getting basically the entire scenario in the picture of the buyer. So, because we want to determine who's the best buyer, who's the strongest buyer, because the highest offer isn't always the best offer. Different lenses, right? Different lenses and what the sellers are looking for, what's important to them. Um, and again, I have to know my sellers to know what's important to them, but also present everything properly.
Well, and for example, I'll just tell everybody in here, there's no way I could have given immediate occupancy.
Mm-mm.
For me, and the situation I'm in, I know some people who can give immediate occupancy, who need 30 or 60. So I would need someone to negotiate that into the contract. So if it wasn't the highest, I mean, even if it was the highest, I still couldn't have been out on
Right.
contract date at all. There's
Exactly.
no way.
And a lot of people can't, unless it's a vacant listing already. So that's the thing. A good buyer's agent will ask the listing agent, what's important to your seller besides price? We all know price. What's important to your seller? And they'll usually look up occupancy and say, do they still need the 30 days? Yes, they do. Okay, great. Anything else important that we should know? And have that conversation. The most important thing with negotiating is to always just remain humble in the way of not posturing, not putting yourself, in this, I am the listing goddess and you must bow down to me. And so many agents mess up doing that because you want to make a relationship, you
Yeah.
know, that agent is going to trust you more and is going to offer you more information that you will need down the line as the transaction progresses when you're just a normal human and we're all just trying to work this out together. So that's really important. But going back to what the seller wants is, negotiating those items of, yes, we need occupancy. This is how much we need. Um, and then looking at the offers and seeing which one has the best strengths. So besides price, besides occupancy, does this buyer have to have concessions? Now, if they
Okay.
had to have concessions, let's say we had a couple of offers and they all had to have concessions. Um, Looking at your taxes and the fact that well, we couldn't have done this for you because the tax bill is due right now, we couldn't have, but let's say you were moving in, I don't know, December. Okay,
Mm-mm. Tax bills due in December.
well,
Well, let's
that
say
one is due too.
October.
Okay,
October.
so, well, we'd want to go past that as if you'd already paid it, because here's what I'm going to say.
So January.
Having the buyer not have to pay the tax prorations is way better than asking for concessions. So if you can do your math and you can go through and get you on it, like you're the lender, but you're the client in this situation, but
Mhm.
taking a look at, like, let's say the tax prorations are going to be around 4 grand and you need 3,000 in concessions, you could just write it in and say, buyer not to pay seller the prorated taxes back if the tax has already been paid, obviously. And
Okay.
typically, and then you're getting $4,000 value instead of 3,000. And typically, sellers don't even care because a lot of them don't even realize that there is such thing as a proration. They kind of forget that they already paid their taxes. It's already spent. Most of them are
In
escrowing.
their head, it's already checked
It
off.
doesn't
Like
exist,
the
and they
box
escrow it. Yeah, so it's not like now if they just paid that bill, it might be still in their head if they don't escrow. But
escrow.
asking for concessions is different is harder to do than just having them not pay the prorations back. So the negotiating, basically my whole point in going through that scenario is you have to know how to get strategic on the buy side and the list side. How to get strategic so that my offer is still going to look really competitive and the seller doesn't see it as a negative, that the buyer needs a
Okay.
little bit of help.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does
Oh,
make sense.
okay. Did I
There's a
answer the
lot
question?
there's a lot here. So to kind of go more in depth, when more more or less, yes, you answered my question, but I thought of a follow-up. How do you handle multiple offers that are equal? And you have to now go back and forth and go,
Perfect.
okay, and you're gonna have to the two are fighting over it. So you have buyer A and buyer B, and then you guys are negotiating. How does that look for the whole picture? And how, how do you not lose it? Like, how do you organize that? How do you like not tell somebody, fine, just give me this amount of money and can we just call it a day? You have to do this lobby back and forth. How do you handle that as an agent when you have to present offers to me as a client slash seller?
So it's basically Hunger Games, is what you're asking. When we're in Hunger Games of real estate, which is my favorite scenario. I love that.
Oh,
I
okay.
love
Keep
that.
going. Keep going. I
I
want to
love
hear
Hunger
this.
Games
Okay.
because it's like that's the scenario I want. I want multiple offers. So putting aside, do I call every single lender, right? And I make sure everybody is properly vetted. So obviously I do that. But then when I whittle it down to the best offers, like let's say we have two or three that are the best offers. Now I can pick an offer and go back to them or back to all three and say, hey, my seller wants X amount. Are you willing to come up to that? I can do that as long as the seller says I can. And I can
Okay.
just flat out ask that question. Um, or I can just go back and say, send your best. But what I'm typically doing is I'm going back and if these offers just came in over ask and nobody had an appraisal guarantee, let's say, and nobody had, or maybe they were asking for a damage escrow. These are things I'm going to go back and say, we'd like you to, are you willing to remove the damage escrow? Because you're not going to damage the house, right? Well, typically. Also, are you willing to put some skin in the game? Are you willing to offer more, or I'm sorry, cash over a low appraisal? So if it didn't appraise, are you going to cover that gap? So these are the types of things I go back to try to sweeten the deal to find out who really and truly is willing to go the farthest, and that's the person that wants the house the most, and typically is the most financially strong because they can, because some people can and some people can't. And the way you don't lose your mind is you have to print it out. Like I'll print out just the purchase agreements, and I'll go through and highlight what I think is important in the offers, and I'll just kind of take notes right on it as I talk to agents, and I'm trying to essentially bring them up. So if I'm not bringing the price point up, if they're offering, let's say, 700,000, and the sellers are happy with something, let's say we're listed at 650 and they're offering 700,000, my goal is not to get them to go to 750. My goal is to get them to put some skin in that game. And if it doesn't appraise, we'll put in X amount. Is it going to be the whole 50,000? Is it 25,000? If it doesn't appraise at 700,000, what are you willing to do over and above a low appraisal up to that 700? So that's where it starts to get like the actual negotiating of going back and forth to see what they're willing to do.
I I feel like it's a little more the nitty-gritty, like getting fine-tuning those negotiations.
Mhm.
Gosh, it sounds like a lot. How do you keep it straight with multiple offers? I
It can
know
be a
that
lot. Some of these 2021, we were getting like 20, 30 offers on properties. And I was running around with buyers during that time and I was exhausted. I was doing both, but I had a lot of buyers in 2021 because, of course, the rate was so low. So I was constantly running. But, getting 20 some offers, you just kind of you look and see where are the cash offers. You start with those because they have the least amount of contingencies. They don't need an appraisal. They can close quicker. So depending on the scenario with that seller, because again, close quicker is great, but like in your situation, if they can close in 2 weeks, but in your mind you were going to get 60 days because it was going to be a 30-day close and 30-day occupancy, then it
Mhm.
becomes we can close in 2 weeks, but now we need 45 days occupancy. Or you can just wait to close till to 30 days. So that still has to be evaluated. But cash offers always, you know what you're getting. They're not going to walk away. They can't say, their lender can't say, oh, sorry, they don't qualify anymore. They went out and bought a couch,
Car,
a
furniture,
car, even
boat,
worse. They
a
went out and bought their
boat.
their refrigerator early, so they just blew their whole deal. So that won't happen. The only contingency they have is inspection. And then of course, and I don't like this at all. I will never stamp this with my approval. People who were just bypassing inspection, those
No.
offers went to the
No,
top for
no, no,
sellers.
no, no, no,
I
no,
would never
no.
recommend that, but
No.
for
If
sellers,
you're
they love that
watching
because yeah,
when you're watching this, please take our advice and don't waive inspection.
never waive. I've never had a buyer waive
Don't.
inspection. If they
I
said they
have.
were going to, there's a form that I have them sign, and it basically says, well, someone used to call it the idiot form. I didn't, but that's what someone else called it. It literally says, I understand that I'm the recommendation is to have an inspection, and I am choosing not to have one because that's huge to just
Okay.
bypass an inspection. I would never do that. But think of it from the seller perspective because most of the negotiations happen after you negotiate and you're under contract. That's why there's only like maybe 25 or 33% of it's either one third or one fourth of contracts make it to the closing table with the exact same terms and conditions that they were signed originally. Most of the
Yes,
time, it's
that is
because of
true.
inspection. That's
Yes.
most of the time. So if you take
And
that out of the
appraisal,
right, appraisal, but
change of
usually it's
income.
inspection, you'll find little
Mhm.
things or something will pop up and it could be a big thing. And it will change. Now you have concessions, or now the seller has to do a laundry list of things. And that's a big deal too. So to sellers to not have to deal with an inspection, but even if they're getting less money in their mind, they're thinking, am I though? Because what if this guy comes back and wants X, Y, and Z, especially sellers who know their house well and they know, I think they're going to find something. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So fascinating because that's the one thing that I did not know how that worked kind of behind the scenes where you have those negotiations and how do you balance it? So thanks for that great explanation and thanks for
Oh,
being our
there's something.
negotiator on our house while we
Of
sold.
course.
I can't believe yesterday was a day. It's
I
over.
know.
It's
It's over.
done.
Done,
Sold,
done.
moved out, key exchange
You're a rock
form
star.
filled
Watching
out.
you do all of that and still taking my calls and still working with your clients as you're in the middle of a move. That was pretty spectacular. That's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
well, thankfully, I had family come in the beginning of March. So we, even though it looked like there was a lot in the basement, we already purged a third of it. Me and my sister-in-law, we were in the
Yeah.
basement for hours. We turned on the music and we just went through so much and people came in and bought I went through a scrapbook era.
I never
And
did. I
Anna
wanted to be
made it.
that mom. I didn't.
No, I liked it. I actually did, but Anna's only like 6 in scrapbook world, and then I fizzled out. I
Oh, I know.
really
I
enjoyed
started
it.
some things and didn't finish it either. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now let's throw it to you. So with the whole moving process, so when you did all that back in March, even though that was a big chunk, would you say that was harder, or was it the nitty gritty at the end, last minute stuff that was way more difficult?
It was way more difficult because, even though I had individuals come in, I had 2 different moving companies come in and help move. There was still the nitty-gritty stuff of, like, what do we do with this? Is it Goodwill? Do we throw it away? And it's just, do we sell it online? So my friend Sheila started selling stuff online. People were coming to get it, which was fantastic. At the 11th hour, my, other sister-in-law, she came in and she started listing things for sale like 2 days before our final move out date or 3 days, just trying to get rid of stuff. So, we did good, but the last couple days were so challenging with the moving, and I'm glad what we've done up to March, even though it didn't look like it or it wasn't viewed like that, a lot was done. I really wish I had the before and afters. I really
Yeah,
wish that there was a timestamp of who all was inside my house and how many hours they actually put in. Because I was
yeah, it's a
talking to
lot.
my sister-in-law, and I'm like, "If you had to put a timeline on how much you were at my house, how many hours would it have been that you were at my house working?" And so it took her a little bit to really think about it, and she came back to me, and she called me by my family nickname, Stina. She's like, "Stina, I did 35 hours at your
Oh,
house."
wow.
35 hours.
I believe it though.
Going through old
It's a
photos, going through
lot.
this,
Ugh,
going through that, boxing things up, moving things over, and then it's hard because when there's 2 people who live in the home and only one is doing it, you have to put the second person who's not participating over to the side because now it's a dead space. Like, what do
right.
we do with this? Because
Sure.
at the time, they were working or something was happening. So with me sitting and she would just show up. There's times I was working at the office, she just called me, she's like, "Hey, Stina, I'm on my way, I have 4 hours free, I'm grabbing a frappuccino, and I'm coming over."
I love her.
Oh, no, Katie, full on rock star,
Katie,
full
can you be
on.
my sister-in-law too?
No, she loves
Adopted.
organization,
Can we be
she
adopted?
loves it, but going through the family photos and what I needed her help with was, as I said in the beginning, we have 2 cabins that we had stuff in. We had an old primary house, so we went through all the old cabin stuff because she was in it with me, with the stuff that my mother had and stuff that we didn't want to get rid of, but yet did it belong into the new cabin that she owns. So it was just really tricky to
Uh,
purge, keep, and it was a lot of thinking, just sitting there going, and you don't want to get rid of it. Oh, you don't want to get rid of it. So there was that emotional aspect that she's like, you can't be tied to this. It's a yes or no. Are you keeping it? Yes or no. Okay, no. Okay, great. Goodwill or throw it away.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
I
Okay.
told myself I would never need to purge again, but I moved
Oh,
into a bigger house and um I now have, but in my defense, I do have a ton of things in the basement that are the kids. So I did whittle it down to their keepsake boxes.
okay.
And, but see, now I have some of my mom's stuff too. My stepdad brought over, like, he's going to be moving and doing some things. So he gave me all of her stuff, which not all of her stuff, but some of her stuff that
A good
some of
chunk.
some of her stuff was some of my stuff when I was a baby. Like she saved some of my baby stuff, and I don't
Oh,
even really have time to go through it right now. But I'm part of me is like, I don't even think I need it. But like, do I? I
no.
don't think like my kids are gonna want it. Like my little, I had this little. I thought it was a what did I call it? It was like it was white. It was a fur. It was a white, not real fur, but it was a white fur coat. I was probably 6. It had a matching hat, and I call it. It was a muffler. You know, you put your hands into it. Here,
Yes.
my little muffler.
Yes.
I have that now, and I'm like, I don't think I can get rid of this. I wish I would have had it when my girls were little. I totally would have put it on them because it's so cute. But stuff like that, it's like I'll probably keep that. I don't know if my
But
grandkids want it.
one item, yeah, eventually just get a photo in it and then
But,
call it
like,
a
all the stuff
day.
that I did in kindergarten and stuff, that stuff I'm probably
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna throw that out. I don't think my kids give crap, and I don't care what I did. I don't care about my report cards. It's not interesting to me. Family photos, I'll keep.
Oh, I threw away all my soccer trophies, and I had a
We have
lot.
100 trophies in the basement up for dance. I don't know
Yeah,
what to do with them. I think we're gonna.
well, I
I think
just
the girls
I
are gonna
just
tell me to throw them away.
I just threw 'em away. There's nothing I could do. It's just
I kid you
eh,
not,
it was a
maybe
lot,
not 100,
and
at least 50
there's
between two
tons.
girls. Yeah,
Yes, that's a ton. So going through that purge, going through all that and starting so if we just closed, starting in March, if we didn't start in the mid-March, closer to the end, and Katie didn't put in 35 hours, like, her showing up without us even being home was just a rock star move, and then what was done in the middle, and then at the end, the people that came out of the woodworks and helped at the end, that was amazing. I was so
yeah,
thankful. I remember I just it was a load off my chest when I watched my other sister-in-law, Ken's sister, drive off in a truck full of the last load that went to Salvation Army, and the rest went to the curb. We
yeah,
posted online free, first come, first serve. They
yeah,
came and garbage picked it out because it was a nice couch with a nice
yep,
coffee table. So, and when I came back in the morning, the bikes were gone.
for sure. Yeah.
Some of the stuff was gone. It was it all worked out, and to see her drive away with this last load of goodwill, I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
That was it. That's the
Yeah.
last of it.
It's crazy.
It's weird. It's a
It is
weird
crazy.
feeling.
It feels good though, I think, to get rid of. For me, I love
Yes!
when I get rid of stuff and I purge
Yes!
stuff, it feels like a weight's been lifted. Like when I go shopping, some people never do this, but I was an organizer before I got into real estate. And I would tell them, if you buy 10 things, get rid of 10 things. Now, unless you're adding to your wardrobe and you can't get rid of 10 things, but if you haven't worn something in a year, unless it's a very special thing, like it's a funeral dress or it's like a special cocktail dress,
One yeah, with the
you keep
onesie,
that stuff.
twosies, yes.
But if it's everyday stuff and you go a full year and it does not see the light of day, it should
Cut it.
go. You need to let it
So,
go.
I've done hook so you know how you hook the
Yeah.
hanger?
A different
I
way
actually
when you wear it.
reverse it, and if it
Yep.
stays reversed for a year, that article of clothing is gone. Now,
Hmm.
I do have a 1920s dress that I wear, like,
Mm.
once a year or once every other year, but if I ever get invited to a 1920s era
Flapper party. You got to
party,
be ready.
I'm I already have the headpiece, I already have the dress, I'm done, which
Well, I
is
had that disco party that was the our Detroit was disco. I had that dress that I had already worn it to New Year's Eve, but I saved it, and
oh, the
I
gold
was the
one.
full dress, and I had the boots that match. So last
Yes.
minute when I got invited, you were there, and I got like the last minute to go. I
Yeah.
already knew. I'm like, I have the dress. I can do this. Like I can rock this out. And I have another outfit that's similar
Whoa,
that I
whoa,
just
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's be real. Who was like, "You're going"?
you made me go. I was like, there's no way I can do it.
Yes, you can.
My hair's
Go.
not good. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it because
You
like
looked
I want to be
beautiful.
like
You look
perfect and you're like and I was in White Lake. I had to go from White Lake on a listing appointment down to West or Bloomfield Hills to get ready at her house. But she and we were like newer friends. Like her and I had not really hung out together a lot. But I busted in her house within 15 minutes. I was ready to go. And she's like, girl, we can travel together. She was like, I can't believe you just rocked that out and you were ready that quick. I'm like, I had my makeup done though, and my hair was pretty much I just had this little
I thought your hair was pretty. I know
well,
you
thank
didn't like
you.
it.
It actually
It was
worked out good, but I usually like to curl it and do some more things, but it was fine. I'm so glad I went
yeah.
because it was a really great event, and I realized, like, how silly would it have been for me to sit home just because I thought my hair wasn't perfect? Who am I trying to impress anyways, honestly, you know?
I like perfectly imperfect. I
Yeah.
mean, I have Irish curls, and with this humidity, look, This is
I
straight.
think your hair looks
This
good.
is this is curling
She's got her
underneath.
own
It
little personality. Well,
oh,
look at mine. Mine is halfway. Some of it. This is the. I call this the Dutch boy paint can. I'm getting my hair done tomorrow. Thank God. But literally, it's like,
yes.
like this is all I can do with it right now. And I'm like, good God, help me. But it is what it is in summer. I do need humidity. Humidity helps me because in the wintertime, I don't like my hair. It's too flat. So I have something to tell you really quick. Just
Okay.
one more update because I'm a little bit upset about this. Well, I'm a lot upset about this. Back to my dumpster fire cup. Should I do some asthma? Asthma is
You
asthma,
gotta get closer. Go closer. Come closer.
but my nails look like crap. I can't get closer.
And you gotta tap on it with your nails.
I am. So you know what? I have
There,
a
I can
microphone. You need the microphone.
yes. There you
The
go.
microphone's over here. Okay. So I think I mentioned this. I don't remember how many weeks ago, but all this stuff with the NAR and the lawsuit, RealCount told us that today was going to be the last day of not having any field on the MLS to promote some sort of a compensation or concession to a buyer to pay the buyer's agent, right? So essentially,
Okay.
they took away the compensation fields on July 16th, and they told us that as of today, August 6th, they would have a new field that was concessions that could be used to pay a buyer's agent to the buyer. Well, we get an email 10:54 a.m., not that I was counting, to say that they have reevaluated and decided that they will not be adding that field. So what that means,
No, no, that's not what they said. No, no.
yeah.
Dumpster fire.
So what that
Okay.
means is every single time, now this is Michigan because there are some other states doing different things, but every single time a buyer wants to see a home, I have to reach out to the listing agent and ask if the seller is offering a competing or a cooperating compensation to a broker, a buyer broker.
Okay.
Because if they're not, my buyer has to pay it. And every buyer that I sit down with, which we already knew we had to do this, has to be a contract where we negotiate our commission with them. And they have to understand that if the seller's not paying it, you have to pay it, which you as a lender already know.
Oh.
That's a very big differential. When someone says, Cece, what can I afford to
Mm,
buy? Your answer from now on, just so you know, has to be, well, if
let's
you're not
assume.
paying an agent commission, this is what it is. If you are, it's a different. So it's just instead of transparency, it's made everything mucky and
Okay.
dirty and extra conversations and extra info, because buyers, and then the other thing in Michigan, which they're doing, and people were trying to say it was just an EXP thing. It wasn't. EXP just got in front of it because I think we're the only ones that didn't get sued, like
Okay.
just EXP. They basically said they don't want on our contracts the seller to we don't put in the contract anymore if the seller is offering and what that is. They don't even want it in our contracts. The seller can tell me, and then every offer it's negotiable. I'll keep going. Every offer it's negotiable, meaning that let's say a buyer wants to offer full price, the seller might pay 8%. That's way too high. I'm just using that so nobody ever calls me out and says I'm price fixing. 8% if they give a full price offer. But if they're, 10,000 under, they're only giving 6% to that buyer's agent. So it's a negotiable thing per offer, which is even
So you have to
more
now call. So if there's
convoluted.
negotiations, like how we started this conversation
You
off,
have to call, but then
now
you don't even know if what they're gonna pay you. You may not know they're gonna pay you.
so hold on, hold on, hold on. Wouldn't that still be steering?
It essentially, in my
Okay,
opinion,
because if I
think about it.
know if I know this house that my buyers can't afford, well, it's not really steering, but if my buyers can't afford it and it can't get paid by the seller, we won't show the house. And so
There's
now
gonna
we're
I've already had it happen.
discouraging.
I've already had buyers that said no
What?
to there's out of 6 showings that I did in one day, there was one where the agent was like, "Yeah, the seller's not offering." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I know. He's gonna miss out." So my buyers were like, even though they were cash, they were like, "We don't even wanna go see that." But I told them, I said, "Well, you can offer." What would happen is you would offer less, and you would essentially be paying my brokerage the fee. you just pay less for the house because they were cash. They're like, oh, I guess that can work. But they just didn't even want to deal with that. They didn't even want to deal with the seller who had that
Yeah.
mentality to think that that made sense because so they just, and this is just the buyer's perspective. I'm just telling you what's happening.
But I see your
Buyers don't want to
client's
deal with it. They
perspective.
have enough stress.
Okay.
They have the rates where it's at. They have enough. I got to find a house. They don't want to deal with going to see a house and not knowing if it's going to be, if they're going to have to pay the agent. That adds a whole nother layer of stress to them. So what's going to happen, I think, is a lot of buyers, once this becomes mainstream and everybody understands how it's going, like this new norm, whatever it is, there could be a lot of buyers who just go straight to the listing agent, which we've already talked about before, which can either be
No.
fine if you do it with me, or it can be,
Dumpster fire
yeah.
in
That's
real
what I mean.
estate.
That's what we're going into. We're going into it's called unrepresented buyers, and we already have a form for it. So as a listing agent, if I get buyers that come directly to me, they're going to be unrepresented. I stay a seller's agent, which I always did anyways. I know I don't do dual agency. There's a lot. That's a whole nother topic. But they essentially are unrepresented, even though I'm facilitating the transaction for them. I'm with them at the inspection. I'm answering their questions, but I'm not saying anything that's going to hurt my seller at all.
Okay.
So they're essentially unrepresented buyers. Now, so what we went was now we're just protecting sellers, right? Oh, you don't have to pay concessions, which we could just tell them that. But now the buyers are the ones that are not that are potentially not going to be as protected because
No.
there's going to be buyers who don't want to sign because we can't even show a house to a buyer unless they sign a contract with us. That is the rule. As of August 16th or 17th, is the 17th, you can't even show a house without that in place. So when you sit down with the buyer and you're asking them to sign it, and they say no, the only other option they have is to go directly to the listing agent, or they can't
Mm-mm.
go to see the house. Unless you want to break the rules, unless you have an agent that wants to risk their license and
No,
come
no,
to it.
no, no,
But that
no.
would be
Who would
ridiculous.
give
No
up
agent's
their
going to do
bread and
that.
butter? No.
No, no agent's going to do that because I wouldn't risk my license just for one.
Oh
And you
no.
don't even know if they're going to like the house. So yeah,
Oh, 100%. a
that
hundred
is what
percent.
we are in now. So I'm hoping that this will create, I'm not hoping it's going to create more problems. I'm thinking it's going to create some problems. And then my hope is they will revisit and say, we need
Mm.
some sort of adjustment to this.
Oh, it's gonna backfire.
It's We're going to have a different set of problems. And I'm sure everybody knows that. I'm sure the powers that be know it. But with the whole DOJ situation of them coming down on everybody, they've
Yeah.
literally pushed everybody into a
Yes.
corner
Okay, are
to
you
like keep
permanent?
us from
I don't
being afraid of getting sued or having a problem. So they just put this together, which it's ridiculous.
Just it sounds annoying.
Well, it's just takes more time. It's not so much the time it takes, it's just the lack of transparency because everything is negotiable, which it always was, but a buyer does need to know, do I have to pay my agent or not? Like they
Yeah,
want to know.
and even on us, it's like when I do the debt to income and I look at the assets and all this stuff, I mean, I have to take into consideration what gifts they're going to receive, what assets they have, what type of assets, what type of income. It just throws in, and so, I mean, I know you know my little tablet here.
Love
I
it.
love my tablet, but I am now
You're remarkable.
my remarkable. I am obsessed with this. And you see me swiping. That's our clients right now, Mike
Yep.
and Shannon. Swipe, swipe,
Yep.
swipe. All the homes that we saw and how to work out the finances.
Yep.
Just keep swiping.
I
But
love it.
on this sheet, because this sheet really isn't filled out, so I can show it. I have my asset section right here. I'm
Hmm.
gonna have to put in the asset section. I have to add a new field. So I have to
Yes, you
go
do.
in, re-edit this, and go, okay, do we know on each home where we're at? And that just, even to have to put this on a sheet, like, okay, do you have an additional 3% just in case? So if this house doesn't
And then does
have
that
it,
have to be cash? Because what if they need concessions and what if they can only get 3% concessions for, certain laws? If you're, what is it? If you put percent down, you can get 3%
No,
concessions?
10% or less is 3% seller
Okay.
concessions. 10% or more on a conventional loan, you can get 6%. VA is straight 6%. Some people say 4, but my processor can get to 6.
That's good. But do you see
She's
how
like
that's a
she's good
problem?
at that. No,
But the
no, and I
problem is the
see.
buyers are going in, and even if they can do the concession, meaning they can pay the agent, now they have to hope that the house is perfect because they can only get so many concessions based on the loan product. So that's my point is how this is not equitable.
Well, they're gonna be separate.
So are the loan products going to allow 3% just in closing costs and then have a separate line item for whatever the agent is charging if the buyer has to pay the agent?
From my understanding, yes, it's
So
separate.
that's what I thought. And somebody was saying no. I'm like, well, they're going to
Oh,
have
this is
to.
what I heard. I
Okay,
haven't done
good.
it yet. I haven't done it. It's Wild Wild
No,
West. So
I haven't done it
I
yet
haven't
either.
seen it on a PA. I haven't seen it in the closing disclosures. But from what I understand, they're going to be treated differently. That's why I don't like the verbiage.
I
Everybody
know.
keeps saying concession. I think seller concession should be said for the closing cost as well as a prepaid. And then the agent concessions, we need a better word than concession so we
We
can
can say
split the
that the seller
2.
is paying X percentage to the cooperating buyer's agent on a purchase agreement right now.
That's
It's
a lot.
not,
Okay.
it's allowed on the purchase agreement.
No, I'm
It's
saying
a,
that's a lot to say.
it
We need
is.
something
It's
short.
allowed on the purchase agreement. EXP's thing, and I can only speak,
Buyer fees,
yeah,
buyer
because
agent fees.
because I've only seen their stuff, but their thing is they just don't want EXP is not going to pay the cooperating broker. Now, we're in a title state, so I asked this question and nobody responded to me yet. Where did I ask it? I don't even remember what forum or whatever. But my thought was because we're a title state, EXP never pays the other agent. I don't, the
No.
title company does. The title company takes all the buyer's money, and the title company is the one that will pay, does the payoff, does all the, does all the thing. And the title company sends the check to EXP for their agent and then
Mhm.
also sends it to the other. So it's never, so when you have the seller is never essentially, technically, yes, the seller is offering it through their proceeds, but it doesn't get paid by EXP. It doesn't get paid by, but we're in a title state. So I'm wondering, states that are attorney states, because the buyer then I'm assuming would be bringing or doing three different, I don't know how they do it. Do they just do a couple wires? Do they have a wire? You know what I'm saying? Do they wire to the seller and then does the seller, how do they do that? Because the title company does the payoff, does this, does that. So
I
that's
haven't seen it, so I'm so
Is
curious
it
to see
because
it.
they do an escrow? This is my wonder. This is what I'm wondering. Because they say, oh, I put it in escrow. We don't really say that. We just say we're under contract. I think putting it in escrow, I believe the buyer has to put X amount in. As soon as that is funded, like the funds go in there, actually go in there. It hasn't closed yet. And then it gets disseminated right before so that that day of closing, it's done. Like, I don't even know. I wish somebody would
Okay.
that's
So we
in an
need
attorney
we
state could jump on
need
and explain it.
a title girl to come on.
Do.
We do. We should do that next week
That would be
because
so
they're
fun.
gonna
But
they're
she's
gonna
gonna have
start.
to sit with one of us because I can't do three people on a screen.
Oh, you can't do like
I'm
4s?
only allowed to invite one person to my live.
Oh.
I don't know if that's because I haven't hit YouTube extraordinaire status yet, or if it's you can only do one.
Well, with your dumpster fire cup, you should be able to be
I
there.
know.
I'm
Well,
just saying.
why don't we'll try that. We'll try giving the link to another person and just not
Okay.
next, like just see if it lets us go live, and then we'll
Yeah,
just I'll send it.
randomly try, and then
Randomly try it.
because they're gonna see more of this before I see it, because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the debit and the credit of how this works. So I'm super curious of it does because I've talked to a couple EXP agents, some Epic, some KW. I've talked to a few others, and yes, that they negotiate their own closing or their own percentage.
Mhm.
It's up to the seller to say, okay, I'm going to give you 3%, Mr. Listing Agent or Miss Listing Agent, and then I'm going to give 3% to Mr. or Mrs. Buyer's Agent, whomever it may be. So
Or they
that's
can do
what I
whatever
think.
number they want. They could say, I want to give you this much and I only want to give them that much.
Yeah.
And then the buyer's agent needs to know, because if it's not their full, whatever they've negotiated with their buyer has to make up the difference.
Is there a code that we can come up with when you're doing a
We've
description of a house of like
so
one
real comp
pumpkin, two
we
pumpkin,
tried
three
that.
pumpkin?
I know, right? Real Comp's already. So I had a listing that it literally said, it was the one I've had up since it was the vacant land that was up since September and it just closed on the 31st. But
Uh-huh.
in their agent remarks, I said, current relationship with the farmer, farmer pays $1,000 per season to crop to um uh, farm the land basically for their crops. Because I put that the farmer was paying $1,000, because I just had the $1,000 in there, it like red flagged me. And I'm like, I call Real Comp. I'm like, why can't I close this out? They're like, it's something in your remarks. I'm like, we haven't even hit August 17th yet. And this is talking about a farmer. Are you kidding me right now? So they already have all of these flags in place because people have tried, and they're going to go
Okay.
through on the 14th. They're going to go through every single listing and they're just going to start knocking them down, and they will pull the listing down, I think, if it doesn't, if it's not up to
Oh,
code.
those agents are gonna need to really bump up their game.
Oh, well, especially if they're pulling things down just because I said that farmer, was paying $1,000 to the current owner.
Yeah.
Like, eh, yeah.
No, that's a bit intense,
It is.
truly.
And it's like anything else. It's like, hopefully we're going to have to see this morph into whatever it's going to be. And then we'll find workarounds. I'm going to likely, every time I have a listing, now agents are going to want to be friends with each other on Facebook, even if we're not, because you're going to go to the page and you're going to find the listing. And then we can put on our social media, like what a seller's offering. But so we thought we could do that. But now
I
we
don't think
can't.
that even
We
sounds right.
well, we can't even do it now because of this new thing of them saying that every offer it's negotiable. So we can put something like, seller is offering compensation to a cooperating buyer's broker, but not put how much it is because again, it's always negotiable depending on the offer. So that's a
Oh,
conversation over the phone, anyways. It's just a conversation over the phone because I can say whatever I want over the phone as long as my seller gives me permission.
okay.
But yeah, there's going to be agents that are like, hey, if you don't bring me at least a full price offer, seller's not going to consider a compensation for your side. And that may not even be the case. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's so tough.
That's
All
the
right.
problem with
I need
lack
to
of
see this shake
transparency.
out. I need to see this shake out because it hasn't
Yeah, that's
shaken
the
out like
concern I have
any of
as a
my
buyer's
clients
agent.
yet.
Yeah, that's the concern I have for the buyer agents and for the actual
Knock
buyers.
on wood.
Yep. So, I mean, we've
All
talked about
right.
this so much, and here it is, it's here. And we just, at the end of the day, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to comply and do. I
Hmm.
just, I always look for ways that it could go wrong and I try to come up with how to fix it. But this is just going to be a dumpster fire. Did you freeze on me? You froze, but at least you look fantastic frozen.
Like, wait.
Oh, wait, now you're back. But at least you froze really cute. It wasn't like that one time when I froze and I looked like what I
Okay.
just did and I froze.
Okay.
Well, thank you, my friend. I think this is a great conversation. I love all of our conversations. We could talk all day. So much better with you. I don't like doing these by myself.
Lives. It was so sad. But with me moving and I was dying, but we made it through because today
Yes.
was another Tuesday and we are official. And I can't thank you enough for everything you helped us with.
Well, thank you.
Rock star for sure. So
Well, you guys
I
were
appreciate
amazing. And
you.
I just appreciate that you guys trusted me with that because it's a big deal. It's a
Yeah.
big deal. And I know you have a lot of agent partners, but hi, we're besties, so clearly.
Well, and you are the Ken whisperer.
Yes, Ken and I have
Let's
a special relationship.
yes,
We've been friends for
yes.
a long time.
You can get Ken to do stuff that I sound like Charlie Brown's mom. Wah wah, wah 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 wah. And then you just step in and say the exact same thing. He's like, "Oh, sure."
Well,
And
that's just
done.
normal though, isn't it? That's just
I
how it
know.
goes. And he's
Exactly.
gotten me out of some tough situations back
Yes.
in the day when I first met him. So,
No,
yeah.
he's so good at that, and that's where you being the Ken whisperer was
I
fantastic.
love that you called me the Ken Whisperer. That makes me proud.
Yes, yes.
I try. I try to be the everybody whisperer. That's the whole thing is
Yeah,
knowing
the
you got to know
dynamic.
people that yeah, you got to understand your person. You have to be able to, they say mirror and match when you're learning how to talk to people, and in sales just trying to gain business, you want to match their energy. If they're sitting back, you kind of like, if they're leaning forward, you kind of lean in because you want to match that. If they talk fast, you can talk fast. If they talk slow and you're me, you have to bring it down and talk slower, and you're trying to make that connection to be on their level so they feel like, okay, I can mesh with you. I'm vibing with you, and you're not going to be like, way outside my comfort zone as a person. So I
Yeah.
do try to do that. I work on it.
Well, perfect. On that note, we have been on for almost an hour,
Yeah, it's been a fun time.
and I have to go pick up my sister-in-law, Katie, the
Oh,
one
that's
that's
right. You got
my
to get to the airport
I have to get to the airport.
and then
Oh
go up
my
north and have a
gosh.
fun time.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not feeling good though.
Oh,
I may like
sorry.
I'm still thinking that I don't know, I'm on the cusp. I may have to just take her back to her house and she may have to drive up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I can make it.
Well, I hope you feel better.
I know. I hope I look okay, but
You
I'm
look
sitting here
fantastic.
in the office and that's why I'm leaning everybody. I think it caught up with me and I'm
Yeah,
just
I think you just overdid it. You overexerted and you were in overdrive. You were in like that adrenaline push, and you probably just rocked your adrenals, and they're probably just like, "Girl,
done.
we need a
Done.
break."
So I actually may not even be going up north. I just may
Oh,
just I know, which is it's okay. It's okay if I'm not. I just might need to listen to my body
yeah,
and
you
figure
need to do
this
that.
out.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Absolutely. You gotta
So,
take care of yourself. So, well, you do that then, my
alrighty.
friend, and we will be back next week. Oh,
Next week on Tuesday, and let's see if we can talk to one of our title girls or
that'd be good.
like Jenna Old Woodward or
Or Kathy. Kathy's
Dawn or
hilarious.
Kathy. Yes,
I love
we'll try to
Kathy.
find
I haven't seen
somebody.
Kathy in a while. That would be fun. Kathy is very good at presenting, and she's funny.
Mhm. No. Oh, I lost your voice. Can you hear me? Wait, can you hear me? All right, well, we lost Holly. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You have a blessed day, and we'll see you next week.